thank you so much for being here. I'm Tom Halleck. I'm co-chair of Force Multiplier. I'm here to moderate our Q&A. We are just so grateful for the role that you're playing in awakening the country to the peril of this Southern strategy from the Republicans. And we want to dig into that a little bit more with you. So as always, we're going to pull questions from the chat. We'll get to as many as time allowed. And just one piece of housekeeping, we've learned that we get the most out of Q&A section of the meeting if the chat's used exclusively for questions, and tempting as it is, please don't use it in other ways. And thanks for that. Lauren, I think one of the things we'd like to do is just dig in a little bit more into this organizing and coalition building. Like, can you tell us a little bit more about the process, who you're working with? And I think people in the call would really be interested in knowing what is the role for people in northern states in this struggle?
I'll start at the second part last. So, first of all, your ability to raise awareness in your circles, which are national, no doubt, and sharing our report, um, you know, those basic things are very helpful because it has a ripple effect, right? You are force, literally force multipliers. Then, maybe your friend's spouse is a college professor and then they have a panel on their college, right? Like that stuff can't be understated right now in the awareness raising. The other piece, just as a general piece, is helping people break out of this because just real talk, when people hear voting rights or civil rights, or they hear the South, or they hear the VRA, I have noticed that a lot of political people, they care about those issues, but they kind of shut that down because everybody's so focused on the midterms. You all can serve as translators on this in your different spaces to say, this is actually a political strategy by MAGA, and we have to be in common cause with our friends in the South, just like we were or our parents were in the civil rights movement. And we're going to need to look for those opportunities. So obviously giving money is great, but we're going to have opportunities for folks to come down here and march side by side with us. That is what will be coming here next year. That's what we're hatching on with Black Voters Matter and LDF and others. So there's going to be those opportunities to bring a national solidarity to the South. We want to really get organized well first, but it's going to look like walking women into the abortion clinic. Right now, I'm just going to give you a quick anecdote. They've got the National Guard in Memphis. Memphis is at the top of Mississippi. We do a lot of work in Mississippi. So my colleague is in close touch with what's going on in Memphis with the movement groups and the city council. We helped find them plaintiffs for Democracy Forward. What's going on? It's not getting a lot of news nationally, but essentially what the National Guard is doing is harassing black men. And they're just like helping with like outstanding warrants, fines and fees, right? And so the movement groups are struggling just to help people deal with that, to like get their fines paid, to like make people feel comfortable. So you can imagine how that's going to look across the South and how we're going to need all kinds of support, right? As the regime has named that they want to go to Baton Rouge, Jackson, New Orleans, and Miami have been named. Landry, the governor of Louisiana, has asked for them to come. And so there's gonna be opportunities. We will stay tight with y'all, Tom and team, about those opportunities when we really are gonna want that Northern solidarity. It's gonna come, especially people like yourself who can afford the plane ticket to your favorite airport in the country, the Atlanta Jackson Hartsfield International Airport. I know you all love it, but we're easy to get to. So there'll be that. And then going to your first question, Tom, which was the coalition. So here's my take on this. We know that fighting autocracy, we have all gotten schooled, myself included, on what it takes to beat modern autocracy and historic autocracy. Our staff spent a lot of time with Ruth Ben-Ghiat earlier this year. It was great, for example. And one of them is using the elections you have to beat them, right? While you've still got somewhat of a viable, fair election, beat them. We're doing a good job collectively on that. Go team. And the other is building a massive tent and getting to mass non-compliance and mass mobilization. And that doesn't look like just like a No Kings rally. I think y'all know this. Mass mobilization in fighting autocracy looks a lot of different ways. It looks like my friends at the CDC in Atlanta going back and doing work slowdowns. I'm doing a lot of free consulting with them down here, right? Mass non-compliance, mass mobilization, mass tent. So for us, what we're working on is quietly deepening our relationships with a set of groups and the business community. We all know our history about the Atlanta Way and the Atlanta Compromise and how Atlanta and the large corporations here are so key. We have the World Cup coming in the summer, for example. There's opportunities here in organizing in the space. We need to bring in common cause with business leaders. We need to bring common cause with the Never Trumpers down here. They're way less organized in the same way they are northern, though there is some items. And we have to go deep with movement groups and mutual aid groups, as well as capital D Democrats, which is why our structure, we're a C4 and a PAC. We have a lot of, we're a great vehicle to work on this overall. So it looks like that on the ground, Tom. And then it looks like what Latasha Cliff and I, and Norma and others, but Latasha Cliff and I and our team, we need to have this rooted in the South with connectivity to the nationals, not the other way around, which is sometimes what happens, to make sure we have the cultural competency. So, for example, the plaintiffs in Calais are Louisiana allies of ours. They're excellent. They're going to be helping lead us, and then connectivity looks like, lots of conversations with NDRC, lots of conversations with LDF, lots of conversation with Brennan, ACLU, LULAC. How do we get a Black and Brown coalition with the Latino groups and leaders in Florida and Texas? So you guys are getting us while we are really building the plane as we fly it. You're going to see us release a 2.0 of our VRA report soon around the state legislative impact, and we'll use that for organizing. So that's a little flavor of the coalition, Tom.
That's great, Lauren. Maggie's asking, it seems that voters are not as concerned with democracy as with rising prices, cost of living, et cetera. We've all heard this narrative
Yep.
coming out. That what are you finding in your organizing? Are you finding that people are awakening to democracy as a concern or seeing that as related to their concerns about affordability and other issues?
Yeah. So Maggie, you're right. So our PSC, Public Service Commission races that we elected two statewide Democrats for the first time since the 90s in Georgia, they ran on affordability. Now the PSC is all about power rates, right? So it really worked well. So that 20-point sweep, they were very disciplined. It's hilarious. The Republican candidates are actually giving them credit for it. It's like nothing I've ever seen in Georgia. It's pretty wild. So we know that is powerful, and we know people cannot afford to live, right? We know that is the overarching issue. We're trying to assess lessons learned from the California and Texas fights. We're going to be getting briefed up on some of the research on those fights. We know that right now how voters perceive this from the recent national voter research that we've been a part of. Voters are currently perceiving the redistricting fights as tit for tat. And they're right. That's not the wrong analysis at this point. And Democratic folks are like, it's tit for tat. We kind of gotten it to a draw, right? Some of the states haven't gone as bad as we thought, right? We're sort of in a draw. So this is a whole different conversation because it takes it out of it being a draw, locks in one party rule, and it's changing the conversation because it's very much about minority voting power and the South. So it's an opportunity to change the conversation. So the messaging on this, we have a lot of work to do. We have some basics that we're doing based on the lessons learned, which we know. So, for example, I was just literally on a call with Holder, who is going through all of their research and NDRC's research around the importance of talking about fairness and these kinds of things, democracy concepts. But Maggie, to your point, and to all of our pieces, that is one component, and that will be important for certain audiences. But for writ large America, and for the region, what they have to understand is if they execute on this strategy, not only does it become whites only in the state capitals around the region, which we're playing around with some ideas on that. It's not only that, Medicaid expansion will never happen. All of our hospitals are closing. I'm sure you've seen the horrible national stories about maternal mortality in Mississippi. You want minimum wage increases, living wage increases. You want housing insurance that's affordable. Every single issue, if they take the state legislatures at this level, number one, if you're a business leader, no more business interest at the table. It's just a bunch of MAGA nuts. And right now, you got to remember, in the South, the way we stay viable in places like Georgia is you get Democrats to combine with a subset of Republicans to stop the most insane things, like getting rid of the income tax in Georgia, a state of 11 million. So there's that. And then what we have to work on is the best, pithiest way to talk about the connectivity there. So here's how I see it going. We're trying to get educated as quickly as possible on best practices. There's a lot of good learnings out of Texas and California. we'll do our own research with the coalition and with some partners. And then we're going to test, right? Because what's going to happen is we're going to start to roll out a proactive campaign and learn along the way. And that's why this crisis is an opportunity. It's going to give us the first half of the year to get smart as hell. So by the time our candidates are all really out there running, because our candidate filing deadlines are in the spring for the most part, they're really on message. We're all collectively on message, and we've battle tested, not only some real research, battle tested it. So I think it's going to be incremental a little bit as we figure it out. But I do think it has to come back to people's lives, to your point. It has to connect. And we got to draw that connection. And as the Democratic brand is trashed right now, but we know that when we run strong people and strong messages, we can cut through because the prospect of one party rule in Congress, any common sense priority is over. It's done. So your federal priorities, you want the Epstein files? No, right? Like anything is over. And then you look at the state level impact, which is why state level. So more to come, but it is a central question. I gotta put it in my presentation because it is like a central question.
So it also seems like voting rights are not the only way that Black communities are under attack from this administration. I mean, what's going on now just echoes the backlash after Reconstruction, the weaponization of DEI,
Exactly.
erasure of Black history. I
All of
saw
it.
in the Blackout report that there was $3 billion in funds for programs for that benefit Black communities, like research on sickle cell anemia and stuff that had been frozen or withheld. And I'm referring to the Blackout report that Asosa Osa of Onyx Impact just released, and you know her well from her time at Fair Fight, and we've been supporting her in our Blue Digital Media Fund. But I'm wondering, I mean, there's a kind of special burden on Black people in this moment, and I'm just wondering what you see about the ways that Black communities are responding to these multiple attacks, and how what your partnerships are like with Black Voters Matter and other groups.
Yeah, this is so central. So I told Tom before the call, full disclosure, I'm on Asos's board and, as helpful and involved as I can be, because I think her work is crucial. And what's great, they're always a key partner for us. So we are partnering at a new level next year because the way all the disinformation is working right now connects back to all of this. It connects back to the lie of non-citizen voting, the division between Black, brown, and white communities. It's all interconnected. And the Blackout report combined with our VRA, what happens in the South stays in the South report, is a really comprehensive look on why the erasure of Black communities in our civic, business, and political lives is expedient for them, for their white supremacy goals, and for their political goals. And I think it's the biggest sort of untold collective story of the Trump regime. Onyx has done a great job getting the report out. We're trying to get our report out. But I think one of the big storylines of 2025 is rightfully the on immigrants and ICE has dominated. That is 100% true. The thing that hasn't gotten that level because it's been more insidious and like death by a million cuts is that they have a brutal, brutal set of erasure, defunding, and political priorities that target Black Americans. And for them, it's about preserving wealth and power for all their white children, and it's about one party rule, right? But it is the most expedient way to advance that. And Black voters, 90% ish vote for Democrats when they vote. So it is the core of the Democratic Party. So it covers all of their key priorities to disempower that group. And look, this is part of why I called Latasha when the rehearing got scheduled for Calais. We did an internal analysis. Nobody was talking about it. So you can kind of tell my vibe. I can be a little spicy. So I called Latasha and I was very spicy and she was spicy. And we're like, we got to do something. And so we're working together in a way we haven't before to really leverage their mobilization breadth. And a whole bunch of other organizations we're working together with kind of at a new level because this needs to be grounded in Black leadership in the South and allies. Like this has to be a multiracial fight. So, look, it's a fight that needs to be had, in my view. separate from what Trump is doing because all of these things were already there, but they are just making it so acute. And then the next piece we're got to tease out is the black, brown, white coalition, because as they pull in Texas and Florida, those are the Latino districts. And so we have more to do. But look, we live in a multiracial country. A multiracial democracy in our country relies on Section 2. You got Section 2, we have to make a new vision for a multiracial democracy. So I saw somebody ask a question in the chat, Tom, it just caught my eye, like around proportional representation or multi-party system. That what comes out the other side of this, where I'm sort of, this may seem a little esoteric, but my belief is if we can help fuel and accelerate this conversation and the organizing, we will have a whole new set of leaders that we do not know today emerge. And they are the civil rights leaders of the next generation who are going to lead this. Some of them are in legislatures, some of them are in organizations, some of them work at my, mom and pop tire shop down the street. We don't know them yet, but as we build the organizing tools to support them in this fight, they're going to build a new model. The Republican regime down here is so brutal. So they've already outlawed in almost every state where they have trifectas. So in most of the South, proportional representation. They've been part of their campaign is they get ahead of us every time. When I say welcome to the South, y'all, one of the things they've done in most of our southern states is preemption. Do you know what preemption is? It's a state government taking power away from the locals. Oh, I thought the Southerners like local control. Well, that's a bunch of horse shit, we know. But right now in Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, we can't pass a living wage ordinance in Atlanta. It's preempted by the state government. We don't have constitutional amendments almost anywhere. We have no direct democracy. The PSC races were the most vote diluted, gerrymandered. We had to get huge margins to be able to overtake it. So it's another way of answering your question, Tom and Maggie, which is the only option we have is to fight and to organize and to feed the litigation, but see it as a strategy and not the end game and build the record. I mean, the last thing I'll say is we know that Brown versus the Board of Education did not happen overnight. We know the Voting Rights Act took years of building a record. We have all of this work. One of my lead litigators reminds me, we're building the new record, right? We are essentially building the new record for future court cases when we expand the court, future legislation when we finally have power to make a new thing of the Voting Rights Act that we can't even see today, to be the evidence on why they need to expand the court. So we got to get some like short-term wins, but have the hope that this is part of a long-term plan so that I'm 45 years old. I have a 10-year-old who turns 11 on Saturday. My mission is by the time he graduates from high school, we can see what this new world is going to be, even if we're not there. And part of my legacy to my child is trying to build more battleground states in the South, which I believe is one of the most important things we can do because this is a recurring theme in our country. Who's a full citizen and what's going on with Black Americans in the South? This is just our fight. And so, look, that's why I'm excited to be with Force Multiplier. I'm so excited to be in common cause with anybody who can help. And trust me, it's money now, but it's going to look different next year, what we're going to need from y'all. So back to you, Tom.
Well, can you say a little bit more about that, Lauren? Like what role is Fair Fight playing in this movement as it evolves over the next few months? What are your needs and how can we help you?
So our needs are really around comms and research. So we're co-chairing this war room with Black Voters Matter with a ton of support from Norm, and we're working through with all the other groups. So what does that actually look like? What it looks like is regular calls and pitching and digital work. And so it is moving from just doing earned media, which is what we're doing right now, into a full-blown campaign. It looks like fleshing out the messaging, rolling out in January a plan. So that's going to look like paid media. It's going to look like billboards strategically located around state capitals. It's going to look like a business community engagement strategy that can actually work over the long haul. It's going to look like mini re-grants to groups across the South so that they can take busloads of their folks to the Capitol. So it is a grassroots mobilizing and communications effort so the costs of it for us are staff time. I've got to add some staff. I have one communications director. He needs a deputy. He's very, very good. Um, And we need to scale up. Black Voters Matter as part of this plan. They need to scale up some of their work. They sent 9 busloads to from 9 states without any funding, right? None of us have really been funded to do this work. We're just starting to do this work. So all the normal campaign attributes of any campaign, staff, paid communications, strategic paid communications, right? Because some of this is going to be psychological warfare on some of our decision makers, and really pulling this coalition together. So convening, meeting, we run our research operations. So for example, right now, I need to add a researcher because we are tracking everything Republican and Democratic leaders in the South say about Section 2. So we can clean up people on our side who are confused and we can help build the case. So, what's going on. So we're ready. We have a huge national list for text messaging and mobilization that we leverage with our other groups. So if they go into special session in South Carolina in December, we will be ready to mobilize around that while we're building our plans. So our overall mission, we're looking to raise about 475,000 by Thanksgiving, and I have a 3 million budget I need to raise for next year in addition to that. So this is not like 50 million like Prop 50. And then it's working with the litigation groups, which are the Civil Rights Group, LDF, and NDRC, who will lead on litigation. So wire this all to best bake it. Our job is to slow it down, create a national narrative, and make it plain on who's going to be impacted to impacted people. And then, as my new friend Maggie is saying, how do we tie it into a coherent narrative to voters?
So, folks, that's where your money's going tonight. And Laura's been talking in the chat. We're very close to $55,000 that can go towards the 400,000 that Lauren is talking about. And I know there'll be more that follows. I'm going to add a little bit more to that as soon as we get done with this call. And there's one question or comment really that I wonder if you could respond to before we sign off here, Lauren. And it's from Beverly Cooper Wheel. And she says that as a Black person, what are some of the ways I can combat Black apathy or disenchantment? I've encountered too many people who seem beyond caring or who believe that nothing will change. They're hard nuts to crack.
Yeah. So Onyx Impact has a portfolio of tools that are awesome. Google Onyx Impact, they have built what, what people are now calling the Black Chat GPT, and it's focused on its target audience. Anybody can use it. I like to, as the board member, I test very funny questions. I'm like, "Hey, Black Chat GPT, how does a white person get invited to the barbecue?" And it gives really great answers. It's hilarious. But anybody can use. It's called Aisha, and tell your apathetic friends to start using that instead of ChatGPT because you are going to get culturally competent and relevant and kick-ass feedback from it. So like small thing like that. Then Onyx produces, because the tough nut to crack is young people across race and gender and ethnicity, right? And so they're really focused on interventions to get good information because, as we know, nobody's actually apathetic. It's just what do they care about in connecting it to the larger thing, right? Voter
Right.
apathy is not real. It's that we're not connecting the dots, like the collective isn't connecting the dots. One of the most insidious strategies that the other side has used with Black voters and Democratic leaning groups is a don't vote strategy. Political power doesn't matter. Democrats suck. We just need wealth. We don't need political power. So if you have people in your life, and it's a lot of men and young men, Black and white, who are kind of in this sort of like a manosphere type thing, those interventions need to look different. They need to come through culture and music and what people actually care about and connecting it up. So there's a ton of really great online influencers and messengers who are in this. For young Black folks or Black folks in general, Onyx is the best hub. They have a thing called the Green Book, which has a historical reference. For those of you who know, I don't think we have enough time to get into it, but that can help you with navigating disinformation specifically in the Black community. There's similar resources for white folks who want to talk to their Trump-addled relatives um, and start to connect those dots. But to answer that specific question, they're an incredible resource. And for those of you who are white, go get yourself educated and read their stuff. It is, you will not regret it.
Thanks so much, Lauren. Well, we've broken our rule and gone a little past the
Only
hour.
2 minutes, so not too bad.
So gripping. It's so important. Lauren, thank you for all you're doing and all that Fair Fight Action is doing and for taking the time to be with us tonight. I want you to know that our community is committed to supporting your work and sees it as an important part of our work. So
I'm
we are
so grateful. Thank you so much. And on behalf of our whole team, thank you. I think you all know this, but in these times, um, having common cause and solidarity like this with large groups of people and people who are being so generous, it just means a lot. And it's been a really rough year and a lot of crises. And so we're really grateful for your amplification of these issues because part of the alarm bell ringing is I think this is going to gobsmack a lot of people because there's so many things to pay attention to. So your advocacy and work on this, I think, um, is going to matter a lot. And I just want to tell you how grateful Eva and I are to be in community with you and have the support. It just means a ton. And folks like you who raise from lots of people who can give multiple times and help build our list is so meaningful. So I hope you know how deeply we appreciate it. And I know that the Force Multiplier team is a volunteer team. So I just want you to hear that. So sitting here in John Lewis's former district in Fulton County, the belly of the beast, we are fighting every day. We are happy warriors. We stay healthy and well, and we punch them in the nose in a nonviolent way because we're nonviolent.